I'll let you work for a moment. Just decide on the first step with your neighbor if you don't have any idea how to start. Just decide on something you could do right now. There's two things that I would start with. I would either A, start all of this, or B, I would find my restrictions. Either of them is a good way to start. If you're uncomfortable finding restrictions, then just start on the work. If you followed the black stuff, you should know what to do on the pink side. I'm going to ask everybody to just stop for a second. How many people found restrictions right away? Are there anybody? Okay, good. So most of you started in on this right away, yes? So all of you should have said your first step was to isolate one of these radicals, yes? I personally isolate this one first because I want to get rid of that, because this radicand, that should have been highlighted green, this radicand to me is ugly. I want that sorted out as quickly as possible, personally. Some of you will have isolated the 3x first. Does it matter? No. So, I, of course, could work through this question twice, isolating this guy first, then this guy, and then I could isolate this guy, then this guy. Or I can just work through it once, and you can see, because it's the same steps, it doesn't really matter. What works for you people? Because I am here for you. Do you want to see this done both ways, isolating them both? Or are you comfortable with the steps in that I only need to isolate one of them? Pardon? I just need to do one? Okay. So I'm going to follow my heart and isolate this one first. Okay? So to isolate this, what has to happen to that? It's got to move. Now, if we were in grade 5 and it was Mrs. Bad Crumble's class, we would go -5, -5, draw a line and write it out. Which, in grade 5, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, grade 9, and grade 10 is how you should do algebra. But after you have practiced it that long, you should be able to do this. And when that comes over, you should know it's -5. So this side is 2 plus the root of 3x equals the root of 5x plus 4. Everyone is cool to there, yes? Isolated radical. Now I must eliminate it. I will eliminate it by squaring. When I square this side, I get 5x plus 4. Now, I spent a long time on this, reminding you why it is not distributed in there. That whole thing must be squared. So what I actually am writing is this. Right? 2 times 2 is 4. 2 root 3x's and 2 more root 3x's is 4 root 3x. But it's not 3x. Or it is 3x, sorry. Plus, and then what's this going to be? It's going to be the root of 9x squared, which is 3x. Now I got to do it all again because I got a new radical. So where's this 4 going? Anywhere? I should bring it to the right, or I can remember, hey, if I've got the same thing on both sides, they just cancel out. Because 4 equals 4. We know 4 equals 4. We don't need to do any math for that. So the only thing that needs to move is the 3, right? What's going to happen when it comes over here? It's going to be 2x. So I'm going to have 4 root 3x equals 2x. Now, I have a choice. Just like I had over here. Right? The radical isn't quite isolated, is it? If you are memorizing steps, this bothers you because the radical's not isolated. But if you are looking at what our final goal is, we don't need to isolate that, do we? So now, here, I would very much like to split. Is that okay with everyone? I would like to work this problem, continue working it in pink, the way most of you probably want to do this, because you're not as comfortable as me yet. Most of you probably want to get rid of this 4, right? So the 3 is isolated. Is that what you wish? But if you do that, you're going to get a fraction, aren't you? And that scares some of you. But I'm going to carry on through. This is going to be the root of 3x equals x over 2. Does everybody understand how this scenario leads to this? I saw at least one shaking head. How do I get rid of this 4? Divide by 4. So I'm going to divide this side by 4, right? What's going to happen to 2 and 4? That's 1/2. 1 over 2. Do I ever write 1x? No. A lot of you, because your textbooks and examples you might look up online go straight from here to here. And a lot of you don't get that step. And the reason you don't get that step is because you don't practice enough algebra. I don't see ever, when I do this, 2 over 4x. I only see x over 2. And if you're trying to pick this up from somebody else or from a textbook that has written examples, it might not show all that. Because that textbook also expects you to understand that 2x over 4 is x over 2. Okay? Now, it's my job to show you that a couple of times to make sure that you're aware of that. And I have done it numerous times. We're all cool, yeah? All right. Now, what next? And keep working in pink. I'm going to do what? Square it. 3x is going to equal what? X squared over 4. Then what? I'm going to multiply the 4. That's cool. 12x is going to equal x squared. Then what? Move the 12x because I need it to equal 0. Then what? GCF, what is it? X. And when you get to here, this is where you guys are going to, where a lot of you are going to make a mistake because you're going to forget something here. You will all recognize this from this, right? As soon as you see that bracket equal 0, all of you are going to be like, oh, yeah. X minus 12 has to equal 0, so x has to equal 12, right? A great many of you are going to forget that. What is the other value x could be to keep this line true? 0. You're all, at least once on an assignment or a quiz, are going to tell me the answer to this is x equals 12. What is the real answer to this? X equals 12 and 0. I should change that highlighter color. Does everybody understand that? I can give classes, and I have in the past given you a bunch of questions that end up at things like this. And you all say, oh, that's -7, +3. That's -4, +6. No problem, right? But then I give this, and it ends up like this, and everyone forgets the x, always. Remember, to do this one, x plus 7 would have to equal 0, or x minus 3 would have to equal 0, right? What's this one? X plus 4, or x minus 6, right? This one, x would have to equal 0, or x minus 6 would have to equal 0. Everybody cool? Now, if I go this route over here and I leave that 4, then I'm going to get 4 root 3x squared equals 2x squared, yes? Or sorry, 2x. All squared, right? Right? Then I get 16 times 3x equals 4x squared, yes? 48x equals 4x squared. 4x squared minus 48x equals 0. Now what's the GCF? 4x, x minus 12. And now 4x would have to equal 0, which still makes x 0, or x minus 12 would have to equal 0, which still gives us our -12. Positive 12. Everybody cool? They both work. Now, the reason I would ever do the black one is because a lot of you screw up this step right here. All right? And if you've been in my class before, and 27 of you have, you know how many times I have said, don't just memorize the steps. If you memorize the steps, it will only take you so far. Okay? Everybody's cool? Yeah? All right. Now, what's my last step here that after I've done all this work, I never do even though I should? I gotta check. Go right back up here. Our options were 0 and 12, right? Well, 0 is an easy one. What is 3 times 0? What's the square root of 0? What's 7 plus 0? 7. What's 0 plus 4? What's the square root of 4? What's 2 plus 5? 7. Does 7 equal 7? 0 is okay. What's 3 times 12? What's the square root of 36? What's 7 plus 6? 13. What's 5 times 12? 60. What's 60 plus 4? What's the square root of 64? What's 8 plus 5? Does 13 equal 13? So they are both okay, yes? And they are both going to get me positive numbers here, yes? So are they going to be okay for the restrictions? So do I even need to check restrictions? No. Right? When is a big hint that I need to check restrictions? What if this was -12? Why is that a big red flag, meaning I have to check that restriction? What are we never allowed to have when we're dealing with roots? I can never have the root of a negative number, right? So since this is a positive and that's a negative, I know this is a restriction I'd better check, right? Everybody understand? Okay, you need to remember, is that even possible? As that stands, is that possible? Why not? How can I have a root of anything be negative? So if I saw it, but could we apply our steps to that? We could, couldn't we? So if I just gave you this question on a test and you were just a step taker, you would do a whole half page of work on this, wouldn't you? Be honest. Do you need to? No, because what's the answer to this? There isn't one. But if I do all the work, will I get an answer? Of course I will. I'd square both sides, right? And I'd have 3x plus 7 equaled 4, right? Right? And 3x would equal negative 3, right? And x would equal what? Negative 1. Right? Okay, what's 3 times negative 1? Negative 3. What's negative 3 plus 7? 4. Root of 4 equals negative 2. What is the root of 4? 2. Does 2 equal negative 2? No. So you would have to do a bunch of work, but you could save yourself that work if you understand what's going on. Now, some of you will be saying, but Myers, you told us earlier that the square root of 4 is plus or minus 2. Because negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. So why isn't this true? Because what are we looking for? The principal root. The positive root always. Is everybody cool? All right. Now you will notice that today I am asking you to do a radical equations assignment on page 65. That means you're allowed to work together. I'll walk around, but I want you to avoid asking me questions that you wouldn't ask me if it were a test. Do you understand what I'm saying? If this was a test, there are questions you can ask. But those questions can really not start with, should I do this now? Understand? Now I'm going to make a small change to this. When you turn to page 66, yours ends at 5 and 6. As I was looking through this over the weekend, because good teachers review their material, I realized that I gave you no questions with a radical on both sides. Right? You can see that. I didn't. So can you please add a 7 and 8 on page 66 for yourselves? And remember, isolate, isolate, isolate. That's your goal. If there's more than one radical, isolate, eliminate, isolate, eliminate, isolate, eliminate. And the last step is almost always either A, algebra, or B, factoring. Jack. Holy crap, they are the same question. Son of a B. Hold up. No, don't. No, because it's really hard to type math questions into notebook. So I went into Word and I typed them, but I must have forgotten to cut and paste a second one. I must have just gone Control V, and then not paid attention. What a maroon. Let's make that one. Sorry, everybody. What an idiot. Thank you, Jack. Let's make that one. Hey, wait a second. I just want to see what will happen if I push Control V and see what I actually have on my clipboard right now. Oh, crap. That question. Okay, make it this. Root, I had one, 5r minus 9 minus 3. For those of you that can't hear, Josh just said, ooh, we haven't used r yet as a variable. Okay. Ooh. Okay, there. That's a 9. Sorry, everyone. That's kind of dumb of me. I got to fix that now. Everybody good? Now, it's 10:13. In a perfect world, I would be marking this at 10:45. That's half an hour to do 8 questions. Right? It's 4 minutes a question. Go. If I actually put a stopwatch on you for 4 minutes, you'd be like, at 2 minutes, you'd be like, when the hell is this going to be over? 4 minutes is actually a long time. Go. If we don't get to it, I'm not going to lose a lot of sleep over it. I can always mark it first thing tomorrow, but I'd like to mark it today. Oh, and I recorded all that stuff about being an idiot. Thanks. When I'm actually doing work up there, you're all like, but when it affects you, you're all like, Mr. Myers, are you recording? But if I look like an idiot, whatever. Maybe that's why YouTube